I'm not sure the public would stand for it. With a,
You're saying if they tried house arrest or?
I think it would be tough for the public to take. You know, at a certain point, there's a breaking point.
Donald Trump, after being convicted, gave what I believe is his worst interview in history. I have never seen an interview this disastrous. The guy whose show I was recently on, Will Cain, he was one of the people interviewing Trump. It's pathetic. It is a pathetic brown-nosing interview. Trump denied ever saying lock up Hillary. What? Trump was constantly talking. He said to her on the debate stage, "You'll be in jail if I'm president." But he denies ever having said lock her up. The audacity, the gall. Listen to this.
I want to follow up on what Rachel asked you, though, because I hear you struggling with it. I hear you say it's a tough question, a bit unsure. You famously said regarding Hillary Clinton, lock her up. You declined to do that as president.
I beat her. It's easier when you win. And they all said lock her up. And I felt, and I could have done it, but I felt it would have been a terrible thing. And then this happened to me. And so I may feel differently about it. I can't tell you, I'm not sure I can answer the question. Hillary Clinton, I didn't say lock her up, but the people would all say lock her up, lock her up. Okay, then we won. And I said pretty openly, I say, all right, come on, just relax, let's go. We got to make our country great. Yeah. And it would have been, think of it, you lock up the wife of a president of the United States.
They want to lock you up over $130,000 of an accounting thing, and
a perfectly stated accounting.
Now, before we get to Trump's denials of ever having said lock her up, Fox News has all the money in the world. What is wrong with the audio? I don't know if you guys can tell. There is background noise. There's some kind of hum, and the interviewers seem to be off mic. Like how does Fox News, with the amount of money they have, they can't get an interview with a former president properly mic'd up? Now, of course, as I'm sure you know, Trump numerous times has talked about locking up Hillary. Lock her up is right, all this sort of different stuff. I do want to remind you, during the 2016 debates, we're going to watch about a minute here, remember this famous exchange where Trump straight up told her, if I were president, you'd be in jail.
You delete 33,000 emails, and then you acid wash them, or bleach them, as you would say, a very expensive process. So we're going to get a special prosecutor, and we're going to look into it, because you know what? People have been... Their lives have been destroyed for doing 1/5 of what you've done. And it's a disgrace. And honestly, you ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Secretary Clinton, I want to follow up on that. I'm going to let you talk about email.
Because everything he just said is absolutely false, but I'm not surprised. Really? In the first debate,
the audience needs to calm down here.
I told people that it would be impossible to be fact-checking Donald all the time. I'd never get to talk about anything I want to do and how we're going to really make lives better for people. So, once again, go to HillaryClinton.com. We have literally Trump. You can fact check him in real time. Last time at the first debate, we had millions of people fact checking. So I expect we'll have millions more fact checking because, you know, it's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Yeah, because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
Harder to see that as anything other than lock up Hillary. And of course, if you want that exact language, Donald Trump said it repeatedly. Here is just one example. Remember this?
I'll tell you something, though. Just lock them up. You shouldn't lock them up. Lock up the Bidens. Lock up Hillary.
Lock up Hillary. I mean, listen, we all know he said it time and time again, and it is yet another instance of extreme tendencies of these dictatorial authoritarian types. They will just lie. It's one of the defining characteristics of fascism. They tell you, you can't believe what you think you saw. You can't believe what you think you heard. I will tell you how to really interpret what you think you heard. And Trump just saying, nah, I never said lock her up. Trump on the possibility of arrest or house arrest or jail time, he suggests the public would hit a breaking point and wouldn't stand for it. Of course, alluding to violence if he were to get prison time.
But so that could happen. I don't know that the public would stand it. You know, I'm not sure the public would stand for it. with a.
You're saying if they tried house arrest or.
I think it would be tough for the public to take. You know, at a certain point, there's a breaking point.
So alluding to the public would break. It would be a breaking point if they tried to imprison me. And then later, when the same topic came up, if you're not watching this, you'll not see a critical part. They asked Trump again about the possibility of prison time. There's the strangest, such obvious edit where, and by the way, the audio for Pete Hegseth is terrible. Like, it's so poorly produced. But there's a very obvious edit where Trump says, I'm okay with it, like if he has to go to prison. And there's an insanely abrupt cut, which we're left to speculate about, which I can only assume is Trump saying something so inflammatory that they were like, we're going to cut that out. Take a look at this.
When it comes to the legal maze that you're still facing, and the judge could decide to say, hey, house arrest or even jail.
It
How
could.
do you face what that could look
I'm okay with it. I saw one of my lawyers the other day on television.
And there's the cut. I'm okay with it. And then it cuts. The room tone sounds different. It's very obvious some amount of time has gone by. What was in those seconds that were cut? I don't know. Trump then says that more dangerous than Putin are Americans who don't support him. Think about that. Think about what it means for the guy who wants to be president to say, an adversarial foreign leader, not the enemy. Americans who don't support me are the enemy. Your fellow Americans are the enemy, not Putin.
They're deranged. I talk about the enemy on the outside and the enemy from within. So you have Russia, you have China. But if you have a smart president, you always handle him quite easily, actually. We have a lot of advantages. But the enemy from within, they are doing damage to this country.
The enemy from within, the people who just won't lay down and support Trump, they are really the people you have to watch out for. And Trump even doubling down on this, telling the poorly mic'd Fox and Friends crew, China and Russia aren't the problem. The problem is inside the country. People
don't want to be impeached. They don't want to be indicted by these scoundrels who are much more evil than people. I'm telling you, China and Russia, they're not the problem. We have a problem from within that's really bad. So he let us down. The key to really good government, where we had like Lighthizer and so.
Your neighbors could be your family. They might be your friends, your coworkers. They're voting Biden. They are the real enemy, spoken like a true authoritarian dictator wannabe. Now, the topic of deportation came up during this sort of worst interview in history. And it's a completely unintelligible thing from Trump where he says, I'm going to do the big deportation. And listen, even though I can't understand everything Trump's saying here, it's sounding really scary.
Now I'm going to do the big deportation, the biggest ever. Eisenhower did the biggest.
Huge.
This will be bigger. But it's a very tough thing. What they've done to our country is unthinkable, that they could do this. And so many other things. I mean, going to New York, the kids can't have Little League games anymore. It sounds so trivial, right?
Why?
Because the migrants are living on the fields. They have all tents.
I like the host is like, they can't have Little League games. Why? I haven't heard of that.
Play around the tent.
How can you implement deportations, and do you think the public will have the appetite, the stomach for watching deportations on their television screen?
Well, that question is so great and so tough. Because, the radical left is going to start saying, oh, look, so you'll get rid of 10 really bad ones. And one, beautiful mother who they think is guilty of something, and maybe she is, maybe. And it'll become a story.
I love that. 10% of the people we get rid of will be absolutely innocent, or we don't know whether they did anything wrong. Maybe she did something, maybe she didn't. And the liberals are going to get all worked up about 10% of the people we deport just being absolutely not a problem whatsoever. Wow. And then finally, Trump bringing out the greatest hits. If Biden wins, we're going to have a 1929 style depression. Will any of the Fox and Friends hosts have the testicular or ovarian fortitude to say, but Mr. President, sir, you predicted that in 2020 and it didn't happen? Or will they shut their mouths and nod along?
And if I didn't throw money at COVID, we would have had a depression like in 1929. And if I don't win, you're going to have a depression like in 1929. You know, one of the, I'll just say Scott, one of the greatest analysts on Wall Street, considered maybe.
Anyway, so that didn't happen. Predicted it in 2020, all-time high after all-time high. I believe the most ridiculous interview I've seen Trump give. Let me know what you think. Let's hear from a sponsor or two. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube at youtube.com/The David Pakman Show. Many of us have bad habits we want to kick. Finding motivation can be hard, especially when life gets heavy and the bad habit seems to be what's keeping you sane. Thankfully, Fume is here to help you prioritize your health in a way that will not disrupt your daily life. Introducing Fume's award-winning flavored air device that is quickly becoming the leading alternative to smoking and to vaping. The point of Fume is to satisfy the hand-to-mouth fixation of some of these bad habits, which makes healthy change feel even easier. The Fume device is sleek, it's sophisticated, you can fidget with it. There is no nicotine here, only natural ingredients like plant extracts and oils. There's no electronics. There's no vapor. There is an amazing selection of flavors, from the popular crisp mint to the adventurous black licorice and cinnamon hearts. Fume is delicious. It's subtle. You can keep using it without feeling overwhelmed. So start your journey today. Go to tryfume.com and use the code PAKMAN to get a free gift with your journey pack, which includes a Fume device, 3 core flavors of your choice, and a cleaning kit. If you are struggling to get rid of that bad habit, try Fume. The link is in the description.